Brought to you by Dehancer. Use the promo code RABBIT to receive 10% off Dehancer products. Dehancer.com.
Eric McClanahan with No Rest for the Weekend. I'm here with D.B. Sweeney, legendary actor. I'm very excited to talk to you today, so thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me on, Eric.
It's my pleasure. Now, right now, you're doing press for the film The Protector, starring Milla Jovovich, directed by Adrian Grunberg, who I looked up, and he's got a bit of pedigree himself. Not a slacker in the world. Tell me about working with Adrian.
Well, first of all, I think that it's just Protector. I think if people look for The Protector, it takes you to another movie. But
yeah, I think that's a Tony Jaa movie.
Yeah, March 6th, theaters everywhere. So Protector with Milla Jovovich is the subject. But I loved the script, and then I looked up a little bit about Adrian. I didn't know much about him, and I discovered that he was the first assistant director on two of my favorite movies of all time. Apocalypto, Mel Gibson's Apocalypto, and Ridley Scott's Master and Commander. And the first AD, being a good first AD on a top movie doesn't always mean you're going to be a good director, because first AD is it's very much administrative, and there's an aspect of being a drill sergeant, and it's very organizational. Whereas a director needs to have a vision and be creative. Adrian is one of those rare guys who is obviously very good at both, because Get the Gringo, the movie he directed, and then now Protector. I think he's a talent to be reckoned with. He's going to make a lot of good movies.
Now, your character, Captain Michaels, I don't want to spoil too much, but he's not on the up and up. And I talked to C. Thomas Howell the other day, and it seems like the older you get, the longer you're in this industry, you get into a villain era. Why is that?
Well, I mean, it's part of the storytelling, where if you're young leads, they need some oppositional force. And so, the older generation is a great reservoir of possibility for that. It's funny you mentioned Tommy Howell. He and I are doing a movie together coming up next. I can't say the name of it yet, but I just talked to him this morning. So he's a great guy, great actor. So I don't know why it is that, maybe it's just not believable if the villain is like a college sophomore, that on a story level, you wouldn't feel like, how could they have the resources to really ruin anybody's life?
Now, let's talk about some of your work. I know I've got you for a little while, and I really want to get into your career. I'm a huge The Cutting Edge fan. It's one of those movies that everyone loves, men, women, sports fans, hockey fans, skating fans. And I've been hearing that it's possible there may be a legacy sequel with you and possibly Moira Kelly. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, your lips to God's ears. I mean, I'd love it to happen, but I'm not aware of anything that's got any traction yet. But I think it's a no-brainer. I think it'd be great. Of course, I wouldn't do it without Moira, because she's the straw that stirs the drink, and in this case, and we made a pact that we wouldn't do any kind of sequel or anything without each other. So I hope that if there is something and then Moira's involved, then I am in.
I would love to see that. Let's talk also about Fire in the Sky, like the most visceral alien abduction film ever made. That thing gave so many people nightmares. Tell me about working on that film, specifically the goo, like the sheet over you that just looks so constricting and terrifying.
Industrial Light and Magic, which is the best in the business. I don't know if they still are, but they at that time obviously were. We shot 4 weeks there to do like 11 minutes of footage, like on the spaceship, the abduction, all that stuff, waking up on the spaceship. That was 11 weeks of 12-hour day. I'm sorry, 4 weeks of 12-hour days. And then the whole rest of the movie was in 7 weeks. So I think, it shows like a lot of the money and a lot of the interesting ideas went into that alien abduction part of the movie. And it really holds up great. The rest of the movie, I think they made some mistakes. Like I said it on the day, I was like, they have a shot where they show the spaceship that it's there. It's like an objective shot. It's not from somebody's point of view. And I said, well, if you show that, now James Garner, who's really skeptical, comes in to investigate this. The audience knows James Garner is wrong, and James Garner is Rockford. The audience is not going to want Rockford to be wrong. So it needed to be more ambivalent in the beginning, I thought would have helped the movie. But I guess some of that is just, that's the way the script was written. And I wasn't the director, so they didn't listen. But I think the movie would have been more successful had they not made James Garner's character wrong from the minute he walks on screen.
That's actually a very valid point. So that's the second time I've noticed you've made a really great observation about what's happening behind the camera. Have you been behind the camera?
Yeah, I wrote and directed the movie Two Tickets to Paradise, which came out in 2006, and it did very well. And I made the mistake of selling it to First Look Studios, who concealed the fact that they were actually unwinding and going into bankruptcy. And so for a year, they kept asking me for another piece of paper, another this, another that. And then finally, it was clear that they were just stalling. And so I sued them. I won. I got back the minimum guarantee that I was supposed to get from them and my legal fees and so forth. But now the movie was 18 months old, and it was sort of like a dead, everything is about, especially in the age of IMDb, as soon as your movie plays at a film festival, it now has an expiration date on it. It's like, okay, that movie's from 2024. Why hasn't it come out until now? There must be something wrong with it. But sometimes it's just somebody bought it and they're looking for the right window to release it, or they want to reshoot a little or whatever. But back then it was like, now it's 2008 or, 2000, maybe even 2009. And I'm trying to launch the movie, but it's already like been playing in film festival. It's played in some film festivals, won some awards, but it feels stale to the distributors. So that was a lesson that I learned is, make sure that you do your due diligence on who you're going to get into a deal with. But I've also directed a short with Sean Austin and I called Two Dumb Mix, which that's won like 80 film festival awards. And it's a little 5-minute slapstick comedy thing, which I'm really proud of. And I've directed a lot of theater. And I think as your career goes on, you gain wisdom, and I'm preparing to direct another movie now. So I love acting. I think it's the best job. When you have a good script and a good character and there's enough money to make the movie they're trying to make, it's the best job. But I've been on a lot of sets where I felt like I should be directing this thing. I could make this way better. And, it's a balancing act.
I know also you've done quite a bit of voice work. Tell me about transitioning into that.
Yeah, that was a great business for a long time, and it still is. I have this show called Mountain Men, which is going into season 15 right now, and it's about these guys and girls that live off the grid in Montana and Alaska. And I just love telling these stories. Like, they're all really authentic people that hunt and kill their own food and make their own clothes and build their own houses with, without electric tools and that kind of thing. So I love that world. And for a long time, I was the voice of Bud Light and Lincoln Cars, and Oprah Winfrey made me the inaugural voice of the Oprah Winfrey Network. So I did that for 5 or 6 years. And I really like the whole process of doing the voiceover or doing narration, because I listened to a lot of radio when I was a kid. Like, I love Bob and Ray, and I love the whole idea of like the theater of the mind. So voiceovers was very natural to me, much more natural than acting when I first came to it.
Now, there's speaking of legacy sequels and things being remade, this one's actually happening, supposedly. Spawn is supposedly getting new life. Todd McFarlane, Jamie Foxx. And I'm hoping a lot of times when they make those remakes or legacy sequels, they like to throw in some actors from the original as like cameos. Has anyone reached out to you about that?
No, I heard. I think I heard Michael Jai White being interviewed, and he was sort of like he'd love to do it, but they wanted Jamie Foxx or something. And so I thought. So I don't know how far down the road they are, but that was a great experience. I love Todd McFarlane. The material that he had there, the whole Spawn universe was really cool. And playing Terry Fitzgerald, Spawn's best friend is actually based on Todd McFarlane's best friend, whose name is Terry Fitzgerald. So it was fun to meet him, and he was excited to be played in a movie. And it was just Martin Sheen. It was my third movie with Martin Sheen, and I love Marty. And so there was a lot of fun there. And yeah, if they want to bring me back there, I'd love to be a part of that. I think Spawn is really unique and in many ways underrated. It was ahead of its time as well.
I agree. It was one of the preeminent superhero films. But as you mentioned, if you have the money and you could do it correctly, then it's going to be a smash hit. And that was actually a smash hit. So let's not discount Spawn at all. Now, you have such a story career. You've played so many characters. You work with so many amazing directors, so many amazing stories. Is there anything on your bucket list that you haven't done yet that you're like, put me in this kind of film?
Well, I'm from Long Island, and most of my friends that I grew up with, they either became cops or firemen, or they joined the army, or they work on the Long Island Railroad. So I always thought I would play a fireman. I've never gotten to play a fireman because sometimes people will think I am one. So actually, I think the hat, yeah. So I have a fire.
There you go.
That's why at Starbucks they say that. But anyway, I would like to play that. I would also like to do another Western. I mean, Lonesome Dove was so much fun. I love being around horses. I have another story that I really want to do. My uncle, Warren Mertens, won the Triple Crown as a jockey in 1946. And he was the first famous person I ever met growing up. And it's just a great story where Assault was the only Texas-bred horse to ever win the Triple Crown. And it was sort of like, the Texas Cowboys against the Kentucky Blue Blood population. And it was just a great story. And Assault was injured very badly as a yearling. He stepped on a surveyor's stake and maimed his right front foot. And so badly that they were going to kill him, euthanize the horse. And they, the veterinarian and the groom stepped in. They said, no, we think we can fix it. So Assault never walked or trotted his entire career or life without a limp. But when he ran pure, just ran like, spun silver. And in 1946, obviously, we had a lot of wounded veterans coming back from the Pacific and from Europe. And so Assault became sort of a role model and an icon for overcoming adversity in the form of physical injury. So I just think it's a really cool story. And that's one that I'm really, I've got a script and I'm trying to advance the ball on that one. So that would be my bucket list. There's really no part in there for me, but I think I would direct it.
No, that sounds like a great story, and I really hope you get to make that. I think we're just about out of time, but I really had a great time chatting with you, and best of luck with Protector.
Thank you so much, and thanks a lot for the time and all your support of the movies.
This is the BTRP Media Network.